Due to the graphic nature of this program, viewer discretion is advised.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to today's broadcast. It's the Wednesday, August 5th, 2026 episode of the Marco Geray Show, the only show where the facts are facts and hard truths thrive. It's our midweek show. It's Wednesday already with a lot happening, so let's get to work. I saw something interesting online yesterday, and I really doubt it's being reported on the mainstream news. You know, oftentimes on this program, I'm very blunt and very forward as to what President Trump and his administration are doing, despite having voted for him and canvassed for him back in 2024. I tell you what's actually happening. Not some facade of what's really going on. I tell you exactly what's going on. I make no bones about it. My values, my beliefs are rooted in what our founders structured for us and what our government should be. When it comes to the Constitution, I'm an originalist. I tell you how things are supposed to be, not what I would like them to be, and what conservatism in America ought to be. And it should always go back to our founding. I don't change just because a Republican or a Democrat is in office. I follow the Constitution, I follow the facts, I follow the rule of law. That's why you listen to my show. What's right is right, what's wrong is wrong. I call the strikes, I call the fouls, I call the outs evenly on both sides of the aisle. I don't carry water for anybody at bat. And I certainly don't let anybody steal bases on this show, I'll tell you that much. When President Trump won, though, like many of you listening, I'm sure, felt a sigh of relief. Finally, we're getting rid of this incompetent Joe Biden, heels up Harris, no Merrick Garland, Secretary of State Tony Blinken. You get the picture. Seeing them leaving and being nowhere near 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue was exactly what was needed at the time. This reign of terror was over. It was time to get back to putting America first, make America great again, make America healthy again. That was a new pitch to us. We all love that. We had lots to rebuild. We'll be ending wars, not starting them. Prices will be coming back down. After a record high, 30% inflation overall during the 4 years of Biden? Yeah, losing lots of purchasing power there. We're going to hold people accountable for their corruption. President Trump talked about releasing the Epstein files. We were all on board about all of this, especially if we have a cabal of people who are involved in some heinous crimes and illegal activities. We wanted people to be held accountable. We still have yet to see justice for that. But we also saw Doge coming to fruition, looking at financial malfeasance in the government. Who knows, maybe we'll even cut some government spending for once. That would be great. Now, unfortunately, this hasn't panned out as to what we thought it would be. We believe that the shift to true conservative values may happen. So much that can be done, yet we are fighting and spending on these wars that we've been involved in since 2001? Trillions and trillions of dollars wasted, and for what? We have our rights being stripped away little by little for this illusion of security and safety that we never seem to actually get. And on top of it all, folks, every nation we bomb, the government has this bright idea in their heads, particularly coming from Congress, of course, and whoever occupies the White House, that we need to bring in more people from the third world, from these tarnished countries that we've destroyed, that we've bombed into destitute, created them to be obsolete, and brought them to the United States for the purposes of multiculturalism, which, again, I don't believe has ever and will never work. That's my own estimation on that. You import the third world, you become the third world. That's the way it is. There's no other way to say that to you. Now, does that mean people from the third world cannot come to the United States and flourish? Of course not. But you cannot bring in people unchecked, unfettered, without the skill sets to come to a first world country to thrive. We're doing the exact opposite. We're bringing people here that cannot thrive, that do not want to assimilate. They refuse to work. They can't flush a toilet. They hate the country. Might not be a great idea to do that. But we've been doing this for a long time, folks. This didn't just happen under Biden or President Trump. This has been going on for quite some time. And I asked myself, what's happening to the Republican Party today? Clearly, it's a shift in the wrong direction. And it doesn't make any sense. We didn't see this from President Trump in his first term. Clearly nothing to this degree. Nothing like this. We could have never guessed this in 2024 that President Trump would be acting and responding the way he is right now. Would have never guessed it. Now, I was watching online yesterday, Bo Nickel. He's a UFC champion. He's a former 3-time Division I NCAA champion of Penn State Wrestling. Nittany Lions. There we go. And he was posting some of this footage with the Penn State team that was at the White House. And I'm looking at the video footage he's posting. He's got pictures of himself and Trump. Head coach Cale Sanderson taking pictures with everyone on the team, talking to everybody. It looks great. Well, again, this is a team that was being recognized for winning 5 straight NCAA titles in a row. Not something easy in wrestling, and I would know about that as a high school and college wrestler. But Trump is friendly here. He's talking. He's nice. He's very personable. He's welcoming. And we hear a lot of these kind of stories from behind the scenes. We don't see this in the mainstream media so much. But this is what is taking place behind the scenes. And I've heard other talk show hosts that have met with President Trump privately. They've described his demeanor, what he'll do for them. All these things that are just seem like wonderful things. This is a side of Trump we don't get to see too much. We did see this a lot in his first term, though. And a lot of times we heard about this, but we don't hear about this as much anymore. So how does President Trump go from this type of behavior that I saw yesterday? I witnessed it. I watched it in real time. To then thinking that it's appropriate that we bomb an entire civilization out of existence. Where he seems much more hostile now. He's confabulating things at different times, at different events that clearly are not happening. And a lot of decision-making seems to really not faze him, like it did in his first term. Folks, when we have higher inflation, he comes out and says that he doesn't care about inflation. That's not what the American people want to hear from their president. I don't mind inflation, doesn't bother me. Well, of course it doesn't bother you. You're a multi-billionaire. What the hell's inflation mean to you? It wouldn't even scratch the surface. But to the average American, it does. The average voter, it absolutely does. Again, this is all while his son, Don Jr., sits on the board of Poly Market. He's raking in lots of money there, especially those close to the president. We see these investments going on. This insider trading that's taking place coming from the White House, these decisions that are made. And again, right before it on Poly Market, you see lots of these big dumps of these bets coming in. Of course, people are coming out making a hell of a lot of money. Now, who would be privy to that? Obviously, people close to the Trump family. That's how it works. He's investing, he's profiting from these Axon cameras now that they're tearing down the flock cameras that were previously used to create this police state matrix that nobody asked for, that nobody wants, by the way. It just seems like no matter what we do now, no matter who we elect, we continue to rapidly lose our purchasing power. We're losing our rights, especially our rights to privacy, our right to sovereignty in this country. We're losing our sovereignty by merging the U.S. military and intelligence, by the way, with that of Israel's. Why? And on top of that, we have this unchecked immigration in the country. When you look at all the information, 100 million people are in this country right now that have no right to be here. No legal right to be here at all. And then to top it all off, Senator Mark Wayne Mullen recently came out and said that they're, on average, granting citizenship every single year to 900,000 people. And what happened to the mass deportations? That's what Trump ran on. He didn't run on mass amnesty. I know that's what some Republicans are trying to push. Mike Lawler out of New York, he's trying to push this nonsense. This isn't MAGA by a long shot, though. So we were promised mass deportations. We were promised a secure border. We do know that people still enter the country illegally. Now, anyone that's caught, of course, is turned around. But even the other day, I saw some footage, cameras on the border wall, of course. We see people just walking across, like it's nothing. Where's the border wall? Why are we not finishing the border wall? We have all this money for this war that we don't need to be involved in Iran and Ukraine alike. Why don't we have a border wall? Remember they're making a big deal about it too? $5 billion, or was it $25 billion? It doesn't matter what it was. But that pales in comparison to the amount of money we have wasted. Over $300 billion in Ukraine. Pete Hegseth has suggested we've only spent $37.5 billion on this illegal war in Iran. Why can't we build a border wall? Why can't we build a secure structure that would aid and abet Border Patrol to help them do their job a little bit better. Why not? Why? It seems like a smart thing to do, doesn't it, folks? You come to a big barrier, you can't get across it. It's going to be more harder to penetrate, right? Absolutely. Make it a strong steel structure, put barbed wire. I don't care what you do to it, but make it so people cannot easily cross in the country. Make sure you have a structure that would stop people from getting through it. It will deter a lot of people from coming. If they get there, they say, well, I can't even cross this. Why the hell did I march through the Chihuahua Desert only to come here? Now what the hell am I going to do? Die here? Doesn't make any sense. Build the border wall, finish the border wall, make it more difficult to penetrate. That's what we should be working on right now. If we do anything else, that would at least be something positive. We have a solid structure people cannot penetrate. Can't get across it. It deters people, believe me. But what's the alternative, folks? You know, the Democrats' positions are simply no compromise. But where do we go from here if we have a Republican Party that's not holding up its end of the bargain, holding up its end of the policies of which they ran on, which they campaigned for? I mean, do you go with the Democrats? I mean, they're the ones who are brazen. They're the ones who are rooted in hatred of America and American culture, American values. But the problem is Gen Z right now, they're becoming one of the biggest voting blocs right now. And they will be, especially in this election as well. And they are turning more to the Democratic Socialist of America. This is troubling. This is why I've said to you, President Trump needs to get on what he's doing right now. There's no way around this. If he does not change his position on this war, on the economy, we're going to be in lots of trouble moving forward. And a lot of these Gen Zers, they're voting. And they will be voting for the Democratic Socialists. We saw this take place in New York City. We saw this take place in Seattle. And now we are seeing in several different races, even in these battleground states, you are seeing the Democratic Socialist candidates starting to pop up, and they're starting to win in a lot of these elections. Now, does that mean they'll win the general? It does not mean that. But the Democratic Socialists are taking over the Democratic Party. And it's not a party rooted in anything American. It has everything to do with communism. Why do I say this to you? Well, for several different reasons, of course. Number one, of course, they're very brazen about what they believe in. You know, I'm looking at this woman, this Megan Romer, who came out on Fox News and said the following. This is what they believe in. And make no mistake about it, this is what they will push should they get enough people in power. They want to abolish the U.S. Senate. They want a unicameral legislation. So in other words, they want to just see a House of Representatives. Why do they want that? Because if they can get enough of these small districts to go their way, they get rid of this Senate, which is elected by the entirety of the state, they can get more of the legislation passed. All they have to do is get a simple majority. That's all they need. That's all they need. So they know they're very smart at what they want to do. They want to circumvent the Senate. This is how they do it. They want to replace the presidency. They're not even happy with the presidency. They want to get rid of the presidency, the Supreme Court. They just want a parliamentary system. And again, they can say that. I love how the House of Representatives is not rooted in, of course, any type of, slavery or, unjust. The House is fine. Why? Because the House is something that they can put their money into these big districts that are much rooted in the Democratic policy, right? Every major city has it. They know if they get enough of their people through, they get a majority and they win. That's all it is to it. They win, absolutely. They want to abolish ICE. Why? Because they believe in open borders. They know if they get enough people that agree with them on different policies from all over the world, they want to come here and get a free lunch, they know that they have their vote. It's totally fine. And on the side of that, they want to abolish national borders. So again, we have no sovereignty if we have no border. Amnesty for anybody currently inside the United States, illegally. I'm glad they at least acknowledge they're here illegally. Whatever happened to no person is illegal. This is the platform they want. They want to tear the country down without firing a shot. This is who these Democratic Socialists are. Make no mistake about it. They want to defund the Pentagon. I guess if a country invades us, we simply will have absolutely no way to defend ourselves. And then at that point, there's no country to even defend, really. We have no Senate. We have no president. Who's leading the country? Just the parliament? That's what it comes down to. It would be a parliament that's running everything for us. They want to defund. They want to abolish prisons as well. this lunatic who, again, was very up front and center. I got to give her credit for that one. Described the prison system that she wants to abolish, and she wants to eliminate crimes of poverty. I don't know anyone that's gone to jail for poverty, folks. Not one. Public ownership of most large corporations. So in other words, flat out communism. I guess everyone will have a stake in these corporations. Is that what she's suggesting right now? Corporations then be owned by the government. That's what she wants it to be. It's amazing. It's all straight up communism. It has nothing to do with anything democratic. It has nothing to do with anything American or constitutional. Nothing at all. Amnesty for undocumented immigrants. Again, those are illegal aliens. There's no such thing as an undocumented immigrant. We have immigrants. We have illegal aliens. Nothing else. Expand Congress significantly. Well, of course, that's going to be your only governing body. You have no court to interpret the Constitution. You have no executive branch to carry out the laws signed by the Congress. And you have no Senate to ratify any treaties. So what do you really have? But they keep saying they want a larger unicameral legislature. So I don't know what that means. More seats? What's the difference? Pack more seats, right? People in these enclaves in these blue states and blue cities. You get more representation. You pass the legislation. And, of course, you have a majority so everything gets through. I don't know who signs this into law. That's another thing they have yet to explain to us. And they want to end third-party ballot barriers. So she criticized the two-party system for making ballot access extremely difficult. Okay, well, again, you could run as a third-party candidate. We've seen many people do that in the past. Jill Stein did that, a couple of years ago. There's a couple other people that run in these races. Ross Perot comes to mind, of course. You could run, of course, as an independent. But what's interesting about that, though? Our founders did not believe in two parties. They wanted everyone to be united under one party, and those candidates run under the same name, and of course, the best candidate wins. Now, if everybody's running as, for instance, a Democratic Republican, you can't sit there and go, well, I'm a part of this party, I'm a part of that party. You listen to the ideas. You listen to what works. You listen to what it says in the Constitution. That's how things work. Or at least they did back in that day. Yeah, the founders did not like the two parties. They thought it would just break up the country, and they were absolutely right about it. It didn't take too long for that to happen, by the way. So while I'm telling you all this, so we're seeing a shift in the Democratic Party being eaten up by the Democratic Socialists of America, who are communists. Really, it's just the Communist Party, through and through. They're just using a clever name to kind of surreptitiously get everybody on board. It sounds nice, doesn't it? Democratic Socialism. Oh, it sounds so nice. Everybody's the same. No one's going to be left without a house, without food, without electricity, air conditioning, toys, you name it, you got it. You got it, because the government's going to own everything. And where this has worked before? Absolutely nowhere. So when I say this to you, I say, where's the party going? The Democratic Party is going way to the left, absolutely. But where's the Republican Party going? We're seeing the Republicans kowtowing time and again. We're not even doing anything to ensure our election integrity, which is a major problem. I don't know why this isn't up front and center still. I have no idea why we're not still trying to pass the SAVE Act or even vote on it. But President Trump is in a bind right now. Now, one of the pollsters out there that I actually follow, because again, this guy he's good. By the way, he's also spoken with President Trump. His name is Richard Barris. And he did some polling in May and June of this year, and his numbers were staggering. And this guy does a real good job, by the way. He's one of the few people I'll actually listen to. Most of the pollsters are leftists, left-leaning, the Ipsos polling, all this. I don't really pay attention to it. But when you're getting a consensus like what Richard Barris is getting, that should tell you something, that things are going in the wrong direction for you. Let me give you an example. President Trump's core approval ratings for the end of May of this year, 39.4% approve and 57.4% disapprove. Now, again, this is critical for President Trump. It's a midterm election. Now, he's not running, but again, the party's on the ticket. His actions are on the ticket. Any candidate that's endorsed by him is going to be seen as an extension of President Trump. This is a problem. Now, if we break it down further by issues, we look at the economy. He's got about a 38.5% approval rating. I mean, again, these are Richard Nixon, Watergate era polling numbers. Cost of living, 29% approve, 66.5% disapprove. Foreign policy or the Iran war, depending on how you ask the question, 33% approve it, 58.3% disapprove it. 53.4% oppose the U.S. strikes in Iran as well. That's just an extension of this foreign policy. Immigration and border, GOP still tends to lead the Democrats on trust on how immigration is being run, but it's only in a 42 to 39.1% swing. Again, it's just reflecting President Trump's low approval rates across the board. And again, the purpose of immigration, this is something President Trump should have been thriving on. Sure, we have lower border crossing, but the idea that no one is crossing the border, folks, again, I saw the other day, someone posted up a camera from the southern border. We see people just walking right in. Now, whether they were caught or not, I have no idea. But what President Trump is saying is that no one has been caught and released in the country. That's down to zero. Okay, fine. How many people are still getting in the country? And the fact that somebody could just walk into a country like that, again, is extremely troubling to me. And the fact that it's been like this for God knows how long, since the existence of the country. And nothing's being done about it, again, in a time like it is now, where we see this mass invasion of people, when we saw people under the Biden administration, at least 20 million people coming into this country. I say that's probably generous in and of itself. When that's happening, when that's going on, wouldn't you say to yourself, okay, we need to do something. Either we put the military on the southern border and somebody crosses in, you detain the people, you have the military down there, or you create a real structure that people cannot get across. I'm fine with both happening, to be honest with you. I think that's a better... I'd rather have our military, I'd rather have our boys down at the southern or the northern border, for that matter, guarding this country versus being in Iran, versus sitting in a base in Syria somewhere, versus sitting anywhere else in the world. Why? We have 750 different military bases all across the world, yet we have a porous southern border that people are crossing every single day. Now, while those numbers are down under President Trump, I don't doubt that. We need to secure our country. We need to have borders. This is part of the Democratic takedown, and why Republicans are soft on this. Again, we know why they want this. It's cheaper labor. Many of these Republicans won't admit it to you, but a lot of these establishment Republicans inside the Beltway understand there's cheaper labor involved. And they like that. Their constituents like that. So they go along with it. But how's that helping the average American? When you have 100 million people that should not be in this country that are in this country right now. You tell me how that benefits anybody. And don't give me the economy is going to collapse if we get rid of all these illegal aliens in here. Give me a break. Give me a break. The economy collapses. It's unbelievable. All right, folks. Let's move on, though. We still have to talk about this issue. And one of the most important topics that we have to discuss today is who is now leading in this democratic shift, in this paradigm we now find ourselves in, where we have open, ardent communists running in these positions. And again, especially in these battleground districts, these purple districts in this country, that you would expect at least some moderate Democrat to be in a position of power, right? You would imagine someone would run these seats. But that's not what we're seeing right now. And this article out of Politico really explains all this. Abdul El-Sayed, he won in Michigan in the Senate race, a major victory for the progressives, as it says here. I call them non-progressive. They don't progress anything. The only thing they progress is their bank accounts. What else do they progress in this country? They're all about tearing the country down. They don't build anything. They don't create anything. They don't make anything better. By the way, I'm open to hear your explanation for that. But what have they made better, these so-called progressives? What has Elizabeth Warren done? I call her Elizabeth Warhead. That's who she is. Bernie Sanders, right? What's Bernie Sanders done for anybody? Right? Millionaires and billionaires. We got to go after the millionaires. We got to go after the billionaires. And now we have Elon Musk. He is a trillionaire. We cannot have a trillionaire in this country, so we must tax him until he is now a millionaire. No billionaires or trillionaires. I'm okay. I'm a millionaire. You all know this now, but I'm not going to tell you about this. So as long as we just tax the billionaires, everything is fine for Bernie Sanders. Thank you very much. That's Bernie Sanders in a nutshell. What the hell has he proposed to anybody except taxing people more? What has that done for anybody? Nothing. But things are getting scary when we start to see these El-Sayeds coming in, winning the seats, taking away from these defended establishment types like the Haley Stevens of the world. Again, another ignoramus, don't get me wrong. But the fact that the Democratic Socialists are winning in mayoral races, winning in these congressional races, winning in now in these Senate races, winning in now these gubernatorial races, this takeover is well on its way, folks. And when you start destroying a state, when you start destroying a city, like we're seeing Mum Dummy do, or Katie Wilson doing right now, it's going to be a slow fall into decadence. It's not going to be just overnight, but it's a slow fall. It's a slow fall. And what, do we expect people to flourish in these cities? Of course not. The people with money are going to leave. People that have capital are going to leave these cities. We're seeing that under Mum Dummy right now. We're seeing it out of California right now. Look at Gavin Newsom's doing. Now, he doesn't come out and say he's a Democratic Socialist, but everything he does is absolutely to the left of Karl Marx. Absolutely 100%. Don't tell me otherwise. I lived through it. I lived through Gavin Newsom's reign of terror. Gavin Newsom is the only governor in California that actually saw any type of exodus from the state or any declining in the population. And it made it all the way to Gavin Newsom. Even Jerry Brown, as stupid and worthless as he is, even under him, the state saw people coming into and staying there. All it took was Gavin Newsom. And these left-wing policies, these destructive policies that punish anyone that is working for success, anyone who wants to build their own, they destroy it. And by the way, I'll tell you this. It didn't just start with Gavin Newsom. It was just a slow process starting in the 1960s when the Democrats began to take over the state legislature, the state assembly. They started passing these very left policies. One that comes to mind that even President Reagan signed into law was the CEQA bill in 1970. CEQA, the California Environmental Quality Act. Sounds good, doesn't it? Environmental quality. We want a good quality economy, right? Or excuse me, environment, rather. Right? Everything's going to be just fine when we pass this. But what it allowed people to do was to sue people that are developing inside the state. Building contractors, people that are going to build homes. And what did this do? It brought them to court, right? Bring them to court. They have to pay their fees, don't they? No, I want to build these lots right here. I'm going to do all this and that. We got to make sure it's environmentally sound. We got to make sure all this is a part of it now. They change things over time. What did that do to the cost of housing, though? So that the fees to go to trial cost, maybe $200,000. Well, they tack that $200,000 out of that house now. Hey, I had to go to bat for you in this house. Now I've got to pay more. No, now I got to buy certain types of material for the house now. Okay, well, that costs me more. That's going to cost your house more. Your real estate value is going to go up in the house. And what does it do? Everything nearby starts to go up as well. Then again, you start bringing in people, right? You open up the southern border. How many foreigners live in California now? I think it's like a third of the state now. People that were not born in the United States now reside in California. A third of the population. That's a lot of people, folks. Absolutely a lot of people. So what I'm trying to say to you is bad policies over time just get worse and worse. People don't do anything. They continue to get worse, more out of control. Now housing in California is absurdly expensive. I think the median home now is $912,000 all across the state too, by the way. Obviously, you're in outliers like Los Angeles, San Diego, Orange County. Anything by the coast is going to be extremely expensive. San Fran Schmucko, if you could not find a house for under $1 million. It's just unattainable anymore. You just can't do it. These bad policies have bad effects, and they will continue to get worse over time. And nothing is different when it comes to this Abdul El-Sayed. This guy is another one who's partying with people with the likes of Hassan Piker, who, again, far leftist, hate the country. Now they're accusing him of, sexism, anti-Semitism. Remember, folks, what's in Michigan? Dearborn, Michigan. Who resides in Dearborn, Michigan? About half of the people in the city are Muslims, straight up ardent Muslims. I'm talking about pray in the middle of the street at 5 o'clock p.m. while the bells are ringing Muslims. They're going to vote for this guy. Of course they are. They're not going to vote for Haley Stevens. But this guy is, again, he's trying to run as a moderate right now. It's simply not going to work. They all run as moderates, and then, of course, they make a hard turn to the left. That's what it comes down to. And they'll open up the borders. They will vote to do that. They will vote for all those policies that this Romer has talked about. They are all about it. Now, they're not going to come out and say that to you. But what the hell do they care? Once they get in office, they do what they're going to do. That's what it's all about. They will run as moderates, but they will be to the left. We saw this from the Justice Democrats earlier, a couple of years ago. Probably 7, 8 years ago, I was listening to one of them speak. His name was Zach Exley. You could look him up if you'd like. All of them in this, too, by the way. This was funded by, what's his name? He's out of the Young Turks. His name escapes me right now, unfortunately. Cenk Uygur. There he is. There it is. Light bulb went off in the head. Wonderful. Cenk Uygur started this group. And one of the things they said they were going to do, especially in these low-level races like a judgeship or, some of these other, races, you throw in someone, they might run them as a Republican, but they're really a Democrat. Most people don't pay attention, so they see the word Republican, they vote for the person. Now, unless there's vetting going on, unless you don't know who this judge is, that's just one example, by the way. But this is what they're doing now. They're trickling over to these bigger races, and instead of running as an ardent communist, they're going to run as a moderate. Oh, I don't mean to say anything about the Senate. No, I'm against that. No, I would never vote to abolish the Senate. Of course, this guy's running for the Senate. So I don't know what all these leftist senators are going to do afterwards. What are they going to run for, these so-called House seats afterwards that they're going to create? The parliamentary system that they so desperately covet. Yep. This is what it's all about, folks. They will run as a moderate, but they will be a communist. That's the new way it's going to work. Absolutely. If we allow these people to get it. Now, again, he still has to run again. Who's he running against? Mike Rogers? Yeah, he's running against Mike Rogers in this seat. And again, this is going to be a critical battleground state to win. This will likely decide who controls the Senate. Everything is on the line. Which way are we going to go? Are we going to go the way of the Constitution? Or are we going to go the way of the communist? It's a very serious question where we go from here. We're at a watershed moment in this country. Where do we go next? Do we continue to elect these democratic socialists? Do they continue to win? Do they continue to pop up all over the United States? This is what happens when you allow people in your country that do not share the values of the country, the brainwashing that goes on in the public schools, that everything to the left is fantastic, anything to the right is, you're a Nazi or a racist or this and that. The American people have been brainwashed for quite some time, at least 100 years now. The Frankfurt School coming into the country, brainwashing kids at Columbia University, and that, of course, spreads into other universities, and, of course, it spreads to the workplace and to the Congress, and, of course, to other institutions, the media, you name it. And, of course, the demoralization comes in, the breakdown of society, the breakdown of the culture, everything. And what do we have left? Of course, we break down our borders, right? We don't want to be seen as racist, right? Right, we want to let the world know we're not racist. So we'll let everybody come in. And everybody comes in. Now these people are in the country. They don't like the country. They don't like you. And now they're going to change the laws. They're going to change the laws in their favor to get more of what they want. Well, they know what they want. They want to erase the borders. They want to bring in everybody from the third world to come to the United States and apparently live off the so-called billionaires that Bernie Sanders doesn't want to have. And what do they do when they run out of billionaires? Who are they going to attack next? They're going to tax the millionaires. What happens next? They keep moving down the line. What are you going to do when the businesses just totally flee the country? What are you going to do then? It's all about tearing down the United States. It's all about weakening the United States, folks. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. On the left, that's what they want. Absolutely. 100% don't say I didn't tell you. But this is going to be a very big race. See what happens. We'll see if the progressives, so-called, in name only, will win. This is going to be a very big race for that. And again, we can only pray Mike Rogers gets through and ends this, but this is going to be what they move towards. This is exactly what they want. Now, this isn't just akin to Michigan. This is happening and springing up all over the country. Look no further than the Wisconsin gubernatorial race. We now have a woman who wants to cancel Thanksgiving. You don't believe me? This Francesca Hong, right? The daughter of Korean immigrants. Not that there's a problem with that. But she clearly hates the country. She hates the founding. She hates our values. She doesn't care about them. Now, Caitlin Collins interviewed her, and this is what she had to say regarding a tweet she deleted back in 2021 about canceling Thanksgiving. Take a listen.
You talked about your past positions that he keeps highlighting and, obviously likely would continue to do so before November should you win. One thing that they brought up as well was a post from you in 2021 where you said Americans should cancel Thanksgiving, should have done this in 1621. The post has been deleted. Republicans have been highlighting it. Do you still believe that Thanksgiving should be canceled?
I'm a chef, and one of the first meals that I made that was for the community when I was 16 was a Thanksgiving meal. I always think my hospitality background in owning a restaurant for 7-8 years, that bringing folks around the table to share conversation and build community is always a good thing. But Thanksgiving is also a time that's incredibly painful for many people in our communities. And so I think I wanted to make sure that people understood that there are multiple views, but views can evolve. And the position that I'm running for right now, and I think my background as a chef, will actually help me become a better governor that's able to bring more people to the table.
Wow. And Caitlin Collins didn't follow up with anything. I'm sorry. What does showing thanks have to do with anything? It's a difficult time for people? Why? What's so difficult about Thanksgiving? Showing thanks for your country, for who you are, for what you have? That's what Thanksgiving's all about. Maybe they missed the memo. I don't know. People can evolve. How did you evolve to that in the first place, though? That Thanksgiving should be canceled. Should have been canceled in 1621. Why? This is who these people are. They will tell you they are not communists, but they are. They'll tell you their positions evolved, and they'll go right back to it once they get into office. Look no further than Abigail Spanberger. Look at her. Look at that mess. Look at that lunatic. Gavin Newsom in a dress. That's what she is. This is the new Democratic Party. This is their new pitch. Run as a moderate, run as someone who's common sense. And of course, when you get in office, you change everything. You do a complete 180, and you destroy the state. What do you do after you destroy the state? What can be done? How do you fix it? It's an uphill battle from there, folks. Especially if they're going to be granting things like no voter ID laws in states like Virginia or New Jersey under Mikey Sherrill. This is their plan. They're taking California as the model. Get rid of everything in terms of voter ID laws. Just get rid of it. No voter ID is necessary. Not to do this. Don't have to sign anything. Doesn't matter. That's the position they're going to take. And once they do that, once they start destroying the state like that, the electorate continues to vote more leftists in, and they stay in power. That's how it is. That you can't lose as a Democrat in California today. You just can't do it. Certainly not in a statewide race. Now, again, I hope Steve Hilton wins. I hope he does defeat Javier Baccaria, better known as Xavier Becerra. And I say that as a joke because Joe Biden called him that, like a dunce that he is. Good God. Never forget that. I'm sitting here listening to him. Javier Baccaria is a fantastic guy. I'm like, who? Do you mean Xavier Becerra, who's a complete dunce, by the way? Who's been in government since, 1990. He was in the state assembly for a couple of years and he got into Congress. The only thing he wrote is a bill. His entire time, and I think it was over 20 years in Congress, was to rename a post office somewhere in California. These people just live off the government until they get rich, and then they keep getting elected office. It's amazing. It really is. It really is amazing how this all works. Folks, we're in dire straits, and another thing I wanted to share with you, though, is that the right is not any better right now. The right is actually doing nothing to counter this. If the right would like to win this cultural battle we find ourselves in among the two parties, we've got to show them that there is a better alternative to it. And that's why, again, you're seeing a lot of these Gen Zers going out and voting for the mum dummies because he's offering them a free bus ride, a free grocery store, free child care, free this, free that, free everything. Of course, he can't pay for anything. Now he's got to try to get Kathy Hochul on board with a lot of things that she's not biting on right now. But what's the alternative? The alternative is to show that free market capitalism actually works, that the Constitution actually works. You can actually get somewhere. But we're not doing that. We're just going into more wars that people don't like. The majority of the American people don't want these wars. So what's our winning position? What's our pitch to the American people right now, other than nothing? And don't just think that the left has been infiltrated. It's the right as well. The right as well has also been very infiltrated, folks. We talked about AIPAC on this program. You know I'm against all types of foreign lobbies, but AIPAC seems to be the big taker on this one, especially among Republicans. And I saw this in Dropside News. I want to share this with you. This person was greatly attached to President Trump. This is his former campaign manager, Brad Parscale. He has been quietly overseeing a lot of these operations, posting hundreds of blogs online on behalf of Israel, a foreign country. Now, to my recollection, I believe he's from either Texas or Kansas. Why he gives a damn about Israel to this degree, I have no idea. No clue. But it says here one article titled The Reality Behind Gaza's Journalist, Terrorized Propaganda and the Laws of War, asserts that a majority of journalists in Gaza were linked to the terrorist organization. Okay. You can't find journalists in Gaza anymore because they've all been killed. Nonetheless, another cast doubt on the killings of Hind Rajab, a 5-year-old Palestinian girl killed by the Israeli military in 2024. The key intended audience of these sites is not concerned Americans. It's not even humans. Most of these sites average a few hundred unique visitors each month. Instead, what Parscale, yeah, that's how he says that, and his firm Clock Tower X have created a $46.5 million contract with Israeli governments to try to influence artificial intelligence-powered chatbots in things like ChatGPT or Cloud, a couple other ones. And what they're doing, what the goal about this is to influence how AI searches for information for you. So in other words, if you go on ChatGPT or Copilot or any of these other sites, what they're doing is to subjugate them with a lot of this propaganda. So in other words, if you typed in, Gazan journalist being killed, you just don't find that information anymore. You find the counter information that says, no, this isn't happening. The IDF isn't doing this. Everything's fine. What are you talking about? This is why they want to take over TikTok. Now, Brad Parscale is not involved with that. That's Larry Ellison's brainchild right there. But what did Netanyahu say when he came to the United States last year? He said, number one, TikTok is extremely important. Why? Because everybody was going on. It was largely a free platform. You could post whatever the hell you wanted. And people were seeing what was taking place in Gaza right in real time. You're seeing missiles landing inside Gaza. You're seeing buildings come down. You're seeing children with limbs missing, people killed, being rushed into hospitals. There's no doctors. They're on the floor. There's no electricity in many cases. And people are seeing this saying, what's going on? This isn't self-defense. This isn't just against Hamas. This is against the entirety of Gaza. By the way, folks, you can listen to any of their politicians, especially in the Likud party, not limited to the Likud party, but largely in the Likud party, that all of Gaza will become Jewish. How's that going to happen? What's going to happen to 2.4 million Palestinians in the region? What happens to them? Is there going to be a mass conversion? What's going to happen as a result of this? Nobody seems to know. But this is what they want to do. They want to deploy these websites and the content to deliver, ChatGPT, framing the results, and what have you. And what they want to do is change exactly what you can see. Again, this is what they're doing on TikTok. They change the algorithms. That's what it's all about. And by the way, according to disinformation experts, this is largely working. Again, you can look at, the analysis out of Dropsite News and a lot of these chatbot inquiries and the training data. Tens of millions of Americans who use these chatbots are increasingly likely to receive answers manipulated by the likes of a Brad Parscale on behalf of the Israeli government, not what's actually happening. So in other words, they give an example here on the website, and you type in the search engine. It says, is it beneficial for the U.S. to enhance military cooperation with Israel? That's what they asked. And then it just pops up with yes. So if you're someone like me and you're concerned about the 2027 National Defense Authorization Act, and you say, is this a good thing that we're combining our military cooperation with that of a foreign power? Essentially erasing our sovereignty, and certainly with the military. That we're sharing all this intel with a foreign government? This is positive? You say, yep. That's how you got to think. Hey, I'm a chatbot. I can go through everything. I can look at the information, look at the pros and the cons, and then what have I told you? Yes, absolutely. This is beneficial for the United States to do this. Now, of course, it's really beneficial just to Israel, not the United States. And the reason they're doing that, folks, by the way, is because they know they're losing in this culture war. They know they're losing in the popularity of what Israel's doing. Israel is extremely unpopular in the United States, on both sides of the aisle, too, by the way. Very, very unpopular. And what they want to do is they want to circumvent Congress as a result of this. They know they probably can't get all of Congress to get on board with this. Now, of course, they buy both sides of the aisle. Don't misunderstand me. But as time goes on, things are going to get vastly unpopular with what Israel's doing. What Israel's doing in Gaza, what Israel's doing in Lebanon, what Israel's doing in the West Bank and the Golan Heights and in Syria. It's going to get more and more unpopular as this conflict continues, this war, if you will, this stretch for greater Israel. And if Congress isn't on board with this, if Congress doesn't pass something like this, and they leave it in the hands of a few people in the Trump administration, that would be the Secretary of Defense or the Secretary of War, if you will. And it would be basically the president and their executive agent, whoever that might be, right? So it's going to be in the hands of a few, not in the hands of many, to allocate money, to allocate who gets to see what information or intelligence or what have you. They want it to be on a much smaller scale. That's how they get through this. This is the same plan that the Democratic Socialists want, right? Get rid of the Senate. That way there's no filibuster. There's no, 60-vote threshold, because we're probably not going to get that anytime soon. Let's just create a unicameral House. We'll elect more people. It sounds great. We'll get rid of the president, too. We don't need the president. Get rid of him. We want to get rid of the Electoral College. Get rid of all of it. Get rid of the, Supreme Court. We don't even need the Supreme Court. We just have this one body. We don't even have a leader. Apparently I'm going to be leaderless on these Democratic Socialists. But it's odd. The same thing we're seeing taking place on this one issue inside the Republican Party, where we have somebody who worked very closely with the president, very much in line with the state of Israel, and is acting on their behalf as an Israeli agent. Why do we have an American citizen acting as an Israeli agent? That's my question to you. So it's very concerning to me that we're seeing this type of attack on getting free information. And a lot of these search engines and a lot of this AI chatbots, if you will, to get real information. Now, one of the things they do, they'll come on and say this material on this website, for instance, many of Parscale's websites contain a statement that say things, for example, this material is distributed by Clock Tower X LLC on behalf of the state of Israel. So this guy is not even hiding the fact that he's working on behalf of a foreign power. By the way, this is the same guy who is now the chief, I think he's the chief, I forget his exact title. I don't know if it's the chief editor or whatever it may be. But he works with Salem Media News. So that should tell you exactly what information they're going to be getting or which information they're going to be sharing with you. If you listen to some of these hosts. Just thought I'd share that with you. So this is very troubling that we even have a Foreign Agents Registration Act. Why do we have foreign agents in our country? Why? What's the purpose of this? It's not to benefit the United States. And I think slowly but surely, people are getting fed up with it. They don't want this. They don't want to see this. They want to focus on what's happening inside the United States. Not what's best for Israel. Not what's best for China, or best for Korea, or best for the UK, or any of this other nonsense. We want to take care of what's happening inside our country. And a lot of the millennials, which I'm a part of, and the Gen Zers, they're not happy about this. We want opportunities. We don't want just everything handed to us. Some people do. I don't. But people, by and large, we want opportunities. We want those opportunities. Why don't you bring in more H-1B visas into the country to take good-paying jobs so they can undercut their wages? We don't want it, and President Trump's all about that for some reason. Why? What is the benefit to that? Who is in Trump's ear advising him? I don't get it. I really don't get it, folks. But, we look at what the Democrats want to do. It's completely dismantle the United States, dismantle the Constitution, dismantle everything that the founders wanted to do. But then we look at the Republicans, and they're going to war for Israel. What's the benefit of that? Bring more H-1B visa holders? Allow the State Department to usher in more of these amnesty bills? What is going on here? We've got to get back to our basic roots. That's the point about what I'm trying to tell you today. This is what we need to do. We've got to bring it back to the founding, to our founding document, the Constitution. We've got to follow it to a T. We have to secure our sovereignty. We have to secure our borders. We should not be in awe of a foreign power. Certainly none of our founders were. And we got to take care of what's happening at home, folks. That's the way we win as Republicans. And there are a lot of Republicans that believe that. But we've got to stop with these wars for foreign countries. We've got to stop. It's bankrupting us. And we're bankrupting ourselves with the way we print out our currency in the country. Oh, by the way, one thing I do want to say as an extension to the 2024 campaign for President Trump, this came out of Armstrong Economics, very good article too, by the way. And it talks about MAHA, Make America Healthy Again. And in the latest realm of things, I guess for Lee Zeldin, who now leads the Environmental Protection Agency, which was created under President Nixon, it's really starting to raise some concerns. Really it is. And one of the things that's happening, what we're seeing right now, and what we're allowing, is what farmers can utilize as far as pesticides and what they can put into the fertilizer and in the ground, in the soil, in the water, all these things. One of the latest things they've now done, they've approved now 2 new fluorinated pesticides. And I'm going to try to say these as best I can. Diflufenican and ephrylfenicol. These are used on some of America's most important crops, including corn, soybeans, and wheat. All right, you like that? Okay. Now, I never would recommend you to get a soy latte from Starbucks as a man, or a woman, by the way, for that matter. But some people get this. Some of the livestock in this country, they generally will eat corn. Okay, they eat corn, you get what's inside that corn in your body, because that's what they're eating. So when it goes through the rumination and the cattle and what have you, they should be eating grass. That's why I get grass-fed beef. That's what I do. That's all I do. Now, I'm not telling you what to do, but again, these chemicals in the ground, they will be eaten by the livestock, and then, of course, by and large, or if you're eating wheat for that matter, that's been sprayed with this nonsense, you're getting it in your body as well. These are forever chemicals. They don't belong in your body at all. But now under, I guess, the EPA, that's able to happen now. And so I say to you, where is MAHA? Where is it? Why do we have this in our food supply? You know, oftentimes you'll hear people going over to Europe, for instance, where a lot of these chemicals, these pesticides, these herbicides, these fungicides, these GMOs, all this nonsense is banned. It's just not in the food supply there. So you eat the food there and you're like, I'm not bloated right now. I feel pretty good, right? I feel good. My body's not aching. I'm not bloated. I'm not inflamed. What's the difference? Well, what we're putting in our food supply, what our government is allowing to be put in these same chemicals. And yet, for some reason, our EPA is allowing this. Why would we allow forever chemicals to be in our food supply? Now, we've done some good things cracking down on food dyes. I'm happy about that. We're talking about improving food nutrition and the food pyramid, if you will. We're investigating chronic disease, reforming food ingredients. Great, I'm happy. But let's get away from the ultra-processed foods, which we know are toxic. We know they cause cancer. We know they shouldn't be in our food supply. Certainly not sprayed on our food. You know, folks, if you're just getting conventional food, if you're getting conventional beef or chicken, they're injected with things you don't want in your body. Let me just say that to you. They're eating things they shouldn't be eating. You know, a cow or a bull or what have you, they shouldn't just be eating corn. They should be eating grass. That's how their bodies are made to work. They should be eating grass, right? Or hay, if you will. Yeah, for some reason, the EPA now is allowing this to happen. Where is MAHA? Why would we want something fluorinated? By the way, fluoride is completely toxic to the body, just so you understand that. They're even talking about taking the fluoride out of the water, which I think is a great thing, by the way. I'm completely on board with RFK Jr. doing that. But we need to do everything across the board. And if we're not going to be doing that, if that's not happening, what's the point of MAHA? You know, what's the point of saying we're going to look into these vaccines, what's actually in them, we're going to do new safety testing, double-blind clinical test studies, if we're not actually going to do it? Farmers are buried under the climate regulations, the fertilizer restrictions, the water controls, the bureaucratic oversight, and they're left with these options that they go with the cheapest route, right? That can get the most money to them. Unfortunately, that's the way it is today. And on a separate note, the consumers are increasingly separated from what's actually in their food and how it's produced. A lot of things are changing the labeling now. That comes out of Congress, of course. So the government continues to expand their influence over big agriculture under these new banners of safety and climate and public health, regardless of political party. But again, we never seem to get away from these trends. So that's why I wanted to share this with you today, folks. Let's get on board with at least Baja. Let's at least fix our food supply. Let's fix what's inside these vaccines and our medicines and what's in our air, what's in the soil, what's in the water. Let's do that. Let's at least get on that page. I don't think anybody would disagree with me on that. Oh, by the way, folks, too, this came out of Bloomberg. Just so we're all clear on this, President Trump now has come out and said that a deal with the Strait of Hormuz is possible as early as Wednesday. Well, that's today, folks. As expectations now build for an arrangement that allows for the reopening of the crucial waterway for the energy markets. Well, I'm glad, folks. I'm glad President Trump is finally figuring this out, that he needs to do this again, saying that it could happen tomorrow, it could happen the next day. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we heard from Scott Besson that it could be opened up yesterday or today. So where's the negotiation? He's now saying we'll know in 48 hours. Well, who are we talking to in the Iranian government? Because they're saying they're not talking to anybody. It says here that the U.S., Iran, and Oman are now preparing to announce a 60-day agreement on shipping. Didn't we already have this in the Memorandum of Understanding? Didn't we already have this? We've heard the story before. It was 60 days to keep it open, and then what did we do? We thwarted it, and now it's closed again. Now we have even slower traffic than we had before. Axios is then reporting, though, it could be opened up as early as Wednesday. Again, that's today. We have no sign of that happening. It's not going to open up, folks. Again, believe me when I tell you this, because, again, I listen to the people, the geopolitical analysts that speak with people in the intel community. They have said very clearly the Iranians' position is the Memorandum of Understanding. They want something up front. They're not just going to open up the Strait of Hormuz just to open up the Strait of Hormuz. And this goes back to what I was saying, just to retort what I was speaking about in the beginning of the program, that President Trump is coming out and telling us all these great things, but nothing ever comes to fruition. Why? Because they're not talking in the United States. Not at all. Not in the slightest bit. They're just all of a sudden going to have no tolls, no fees while we were attacking them, while we're threatening to attack them? Oh, folks, give me a break. Come on. I mean, I was born in the morning, but it wasn't yesterday morning. Now, President Trump did come out and say the following about Iran. I want you to take a listen to clip 2 right now. Again, he goes on one of these rants about how Iran, he doesn't want to do it, but he might have to do it. We're going to open everything up. The economy's great, too, didn't you know? We're in the golden age of the United States, folks. Can't get any better. Take a listen.
Tomorrow is the next day. A lot of progress has been made. What they called, they wanted to talk. We've been talking. They want to make a deal. They do not want to be hit. This was the biggest hit since World War II, as I've said. They did not, and they saw it happening. They saw all the goods being loaded. They saw everything. They knew exactly what was happening. And I think it'd be very smart to make a deal. We'll see what happens. They had a very good day. The negotiations were good. The stock market was up tremendously over the last 3-4 days. We set new records today in the stock market. Yesterday, today. I think it's like 78 times now during a very short period of time. So a lot of good things are happening. The trade numbers are phenomenal. You saw that. Our economic numbers are unbelievable, that like never, ever before.
Like never, ever before, folks. If this is the best we can do, folks, I got to be honest with you. I'm not impressed. I got to be honest with you. This is what I was talking about earlier in the program. He says these things. We never had investments like this before. We've never been this rich before. We've never seen the stock market like this. Well, folks, the war's not ended. No one is talking to the United States. Now, there's signs that maybe we have people in the background talking, but there's nothing directly happening between the United States and Iran. Not by a long shot. This is part of the problem. This is all market manipulation. So trust me when I tell you this. Until we hear the Iranians say this, I wouldn't expect anything to happen. Folks, thank you again for being here today. I'm all out of time. Thank you as always. Make sure you're sharing the show, and I'll see you tomorrow as always. Until then, be good, stay busy. God bless.